Good evening. It is roughly past 7 p.m. on our studio clocks, and it is time for the news on DBS TV in the English language. The news which we begin with are headlines. March 22nd, 2021 marks World Water Day, a day that brings attention on the availability and maintenance of fresh water sources and reliable water sources all over the world. Contrary to what is widely known, women are not sidelined or disregarded in the African society. This is the conclusion of a roundtable talk organized on this particular issue, which is the role of women in African culture. These are our top stories in tonight's newscast. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with us and get the details in a few seconds. Welcome back and thank you for joining us. If you just tuned in, then you are on to the 7 p.m. newscast edition of the news on DBS television, which is of course in the English language with me, Cynthia Ngwemo. As we told you on this headline, Cameroon today joins the world to commemorate World Water Day, a day which seeks to draw attention on the sustainable management of freshwater sources all over the world, and of course Cameroon inclusive. Mange Venasius in the following report gives us details about this day and what it is all about.
Water means different things to different people at different places. This is translated through the way people value water. The world celebrates every 22nd of March as World Water Day to advocate for the sustainable management of freshwater resources. A day in which the world values this precious liquid whose value is only appreciated when it is not there. In Cameroon, the day is commemorated in a very low key, maybe because the value we give to water means a different thing to different peoples. One would imagine that in the semi-arid areas of the northern regions, water will be precious given the climatic conditions, but the contrary is that even in the south, coastal areas still yearn for potable water. This brings us to the question of how accessible water is in our communities. In cities like Douala, that is said to sit on water, city dwellers have resorted to using water, especially from boreholes, like this man narrates. To him, the motivating factor is that the water supply company is not consistent and unreliable, an experience which others share the contrary altogether.
Come water doesn't have any fault. When I'm bathing with come water, drinking come water, normally I really love come water. Yeah, come water is a very good source of water.
But like he says, having access to water is one thing, and the quality of the water we have is another. All these put together sum up to the 2021 edition of World Water Day, which is valuing water. It is only when we value water that we understand the importance of fresh water and praises for the sustainable management of fresh water resources. As they say, every drop of water is a priceless treasure for us to save.
In this sad news story, family members and friends of one of Cameroon's prominent political figures, Paul Eric Kingué, as well as populations of Njombe-Penja in the littoral region for which he was mayor, are all in mourning following his sudden passing away early this Monday in Douala after he suffered from a brief illness that lasted barely a week, according to observers. Following the news of his death, the populations crowded his home to condole with his family. Being a prominent political figure himself, politicians and other public figures have been pouring out their sadness, accompanied with condolences to his family. After facing adversity from the government and fighting tribalism in Cameroon, Paul Eric Kingué was elected mayor of the Njombe-Penja municipality in the Mungo division of the littoral region. His corpse have been deposited at the Bonanjo Military Hospital this morning, awaiting funeral rites. In a different news story, parliamentarians have been discussing ways in which Cameroon as a whole, can tackle problems related to road safety hazards in Cameroon. They have met with road safety experts in a capacity building seminar at the National Assembly. Let's now listen to the president of the Parliamentary Network for Road Safety, Honorable Donald Esembe, who explains the importance of the conclave.
Training, capacity building is a core aspect in our 2021 action plan, which has been validated by the Right Honorable Speaker of the House, Kavayege Jibril. For us MPs, members of the network, it is a question of building capacity and getting to understand the stakes about road safety in our country so we can properly and effectively accompany the policies put in place by the government of the Republic. Sincerely, I want to thank my colleagues, members of parliament, members of the network who are here, our different partners, and the experts who have come this morning to help us build capacity in this domain.
The role of women in the development of African traditions and culture has been the topic of discussion in a ceremony organized in Yaoundé. The event, organized by Association des Femmes Africaines, brought together African scholars who discussed and debunked allegations that women are sidelined in the African society. Here's the full story with Ate Bonaventure.
Pan-African philosophers hold the view that women have always played a key role in the development of the African society, contrary to Western perceptions.
On the African society, there was no difference between men and women. People were placed according to what they were realizing in the community. Then when we are speaking of gender issue, this is something that comes from Europe, that comes from the West. We did not know what it is in the African community, in the African society. No.
The different panelists took turns to explain the virtues of African cultures that are gradually being neglected at the profit of Western civilization.
African is African. We have to know how culture. We have to go and meet the traditional ruler. Many people who know how the traditional culture are working and learn. We have to learn how culture to go conquer the world.
These changes unfolded under themes such as African women as base for family education and the African woman in a post-colonial era.
Over in the east region of Cameroon, the military tribunal of Betwa now has a new president in the person of Lieutenant Colonel Mbia Ondua Aline. He was officially installed into office by the Director of Military Justice in the presence of administrative as well as regional authorities of the east. Details of the story with Mariam Fuju.
It is with a courtesy visit to the administrative and judicial authorities of the Eastern region that Dr. Didier Sipandokmo, Director of Military Justice in Cameroon, began his ceremony of handing over to the new president of the Military Court of Betwa and the government commissioner. It was all about presenting his collaborators to the authorities of the city of Betwa, starting with the governor of the East region, and then the president of the Court of Appeal of the East. After the Lieutenant Colonel Mbia Ondua Aline took office as president of the Betwa Military Court and Lieutenant Commander Pongia Marie, Government Commissioner of the Court of Appeal, by signing the documents, the two senior magistrate officers received firm instructions from Dr. Colonel Sipa Didier Ndokmo, Director of Military Justice, the habit of humility in the defense forces, and attendance at work.
In the handover ceremony, we decided to dwell on three factors. We asked the newly installed to be professional in the way they're working, because it is the bedrock of efficiency and also quality service. We also ask them to be coherent, to ensure cohesion within this jurisdiction, because without cohesion, they are certainly not going to attain their objectives. We have finally asked them to work hand in hand with other administrations who have something to do, necessarily to do with the administration of justice, so as to attain the objectives.
The government commissioner Efangono leaves Betua leaving behind great memories.
Nous sommes satisfaits de l'action que nous avons pu mener.
We are satisfied with the actions we have made because we have been able to install a current climate of cohesion. We work together on the level of services. We have put in place some initiative plan. I still remember the way Evolution Days occurred. Thanks to the President of the Republic, thanks to the Minister Delegate in charge of Defense, and thanks to Military Justice for the renewed trust.
The staff at headquarters and those from the prosecution said goodbye to the Ifangono Martin Paul battalion chiefs in good-natured atmosphere.
We end news in Cameroon from the East region with that story, and now we move on to news out of the Cameroonian borders, those still remaining in the African continent. We begin in DR Congo, where opposition leader Parfait Kolela has died from COVID-19 after being evacuated to France to receive treatment. He passed away just a day before Sunday's presidential elections in the country. And in Central African Republic, ex-president Francois Bozizé is confirmed to have taken lead in an alliance rebel group which is aimed at overthrowing the central government of President Faustin Archange Touadera. Over in Tanzania, President Samia Suluhu Hassan has joined the rest of the country in national mourning, as well as in paying final respects to late President John Magufuli, who is receiving a 21-day period of national mourning. In the following page, which is the Africa Roundup page, Rogeatu Buba, our intern, gives us details.
The leading opposition presidential candidate in Republic of Congo's election, Guy Brice Parfait Kolela, has died on Saturday, March 20, in a hospital in France from COVID-19. He died on the eve of presidential elections in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which took place on Sunday, March 21st. Though boycotted by the main opposition leader, the elections with 6 candidates challenging incumbent President Denis Sassou Nguesso took place. While hospitalized with respiratory problems from COVID, Kolela made a video calling on Congolese to vote massively. Following his death, 77-year-old Sassou Nguesso is expected to win the elections. Results of these elections are expected to be released within the week. The former president of Central African Republic, Francois Bozizé, has taken charge of a rebel alliance aiming to overthrow the central government. The group spokesman, Serge Bozanga, confirmed on Sunday that he had agreed in February to become general coordinator of the so-called Coalitions of Patriots for Change. The government had accused him of being behind a failed offensive by the CPC against President Faustin Archange Touadera, who won re-election in a December 2020 vote marred by insecurity and low turnout. The coalition brought together 6 of the armed groups that control the country in December. Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan led mourners in paying their last respect to the late President John Magufuli, who died suddenly last week. Mourners lined the streets to bid farewell to Magufuli, some of them weeping and throwing flower petals as a casket towed on a gun carriage by a military vehicle. Hassan, who was sworn in on Friday to become the first female president, announced 21-day mourning period following his death. Magufuli will lie in state in several locations across Tanzania before his burial next Friday in his hometown.
That wraps it up for the news for today, Monday, the 22nd of March 2021. It has been a pleasure to have you again, and we do hope to have you once more when we return tomorrow, same time. Good night from me, Cynthia Ngwemo, and from TVS Television.